Hey everybody, welcome back to Cooking with Noah. This is Noah here, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make coconut curry chicken. So this is one of my favorite recipes to make, especially during the week, because it is really simple and also really tasty. It definitely is one of my family's favorites, so I hope that you guys give it a try and that your family will like it too. Alright guys, so I'm going to be showing you guys the ingredients as I am working with them. So let's get started. Alright, so the first thing that you're going to be needing is 2.5 to 3 pounds of chicken. I'm using chicken breast here because that's what I had in my fridge, but you can definitely use chicken thighs or any other kind of chicken. So we're going to start with cutting them into chunks like this. I would say this is about maybe like a 2-inch chunk, and we're just going to move those to a bowl. So I'll be back with you guys once I get all of this chicken ready. Alright guys, I finished chopping up my chicken, and this is more or less what it's gonna look like. So the next thing that we're gonna do is make our spice rub. Alright guys, so now we're gonna be making the spice rub that we are going to put on our chicken. So I will admit though, this is a recipe that I've made for many years and I never measured it because, you know, it was just something that I kind of made, you know, from my heart. So I did try my best to come up with the measurements for this. So, you know, if there's a little bit of tasting and adding, you know, that is to be expected. And we have the pup coming in. Hey pup. To our curry spice rub, we are going to be adding in ½ a tablespoon of salt. Then we're also going to be adding in ½ a tablespoon of curry powder. Then we're going to be adding in 1 teaspoon of cumin, 1 teaspoon of paprika, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1/2 teaspoon of turmeric, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, and ½ a teaspoon of cayenne pepper for some heat. All right, then once we get all our spices in, we're just going to whisk it up with a fork. Okay, so I tasted my spice blend and I did add an extra ½ a tablespoon of salt. So 1 tablespoon of salt in total. The other thing that I will say is that I made it a little bit spicy because I like to have that spice, especially in my curry. So if you don't want it to be super spicy, just cut back on the cayenne pepper. So I would go with maybe like a 1/4 teaspoon or so, and then work your way up depending on how spicy you want it. Okay, so now that we have our spice rub ready to go, we're just gonna dry off our chicken a little bit using a tissue. So I like to just go in with my hands in the bowl and just get off as much of that moisture as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect. We just wanna dry off this chicken a little bit for 2 reasons. The first is that it's going to help the rub to stick a little bit better, and it's also going to give us a better sear when we get this on the stove. So again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just go in until it feels right, as dry as you can get it. You know, it's totally fine. All right, so that feels good to me. It's sticking to my tissues, which tells me that it is more or less dry. All right, so I'm gonna wash my hands and get that spice rub going. All right, so now that our chicken is all dried off, we're just going to sprinkle on our spice blend. I'm not gonna be putting on the whole thing just yet. I'm also not gonna be putting my hands in there because if I have left over, I wanna save this rub for something else. So we're just gonna sprinkle that up into the chicken, and then we're just going to go in with our hands again and try to coat it as best as possible. So you don't want it to be a super thick coating. So like it's not like you're doing like a rub for like, you know, barbecue or something like that. You just want it to be lightly coated. So I'm gonna put a little bit more, and I'll show you guys in a minute close up what this is gonna be looking like. And just going with your hands. If you don't want to use your hands, you could use tongs or a fork or spoon or whatever it is. I like to feel how much spices I'm getting on the chicken, so I like to go in with my hands. All right, so something like this is good. All right guys, so this is more or less what the chicken should look like once all the rub is on. So like I said, not too thick of a coating, but just enough so that it is seasoned. Okay, so right now I'm gonna be browning the chicken. So if you wanted to make this recipe in advance, you can definitely cover this with some plastic wrap and put it in the fridge and let it marinate for like a day or two. I'm not gonna do that. I'm hungry and I'm ready to eat like right now. So I'm just gonna start cooking it like right now. So you guys are gonna be needing a relatively large pan with the sides because we are going to be putting in liquid. So I would not go with a frying pan here. So once my pan is ready to go, I'm going to be using, this is about like 2 tablespoons of coconut oil, and we're just going to pour that in, spread it around, and let that heat up. So you can also use like canola oil or vegetable oil or whatever it is. I'm using coconut oil because I forgot to buy oil. So right now the only thing I have in my house is olive oil and coconut oil and butter, which would actually work. But I figured that since it is gonna be a coconut curry, the coconut oil would be fine. But like I said, any kind of oil that you guys have on hand, you can definitely use. All right, now that our oil is nice and hot, we're just going to put our chicken in the pan. So with this, I'm probably gonna be doing it in 2 batches because I don't wanna overcrowd the pan because I really wanna get a good sear on my chicken. So I'm just gonna add as many pieces that fit comfortably in the pan. So like something like, I feel like 2 more pieces. Yeah, something like that is good. And then once these are browned, I'm going to put them on a plate and then work on the next batch. All right guys, so I am almost done browning my chicken. As you can see, we just want to get a nice sear on these, really toast those spices. All right, so that sizzle is definitely what you want to hear. It's one of my favorite sounds. So once we are happy with our sear on all of the chicken, like both of these sides look good to me, we're going to add all of our chicken from the first batch back into the pan, along with all of the juices. So definitely shake off whatever plate you're using. Get rid of that. And then we're just going to flatten this out, get that ready to go. All right, so now that all of our chicken is brown, please do keep in mind that we only par cook the chicken. So do not go and start eating chicken like it's not cooked all the way. You're probably gonna get sick. Just don't do that. All right, anyway. Now, once we have our chicken in, we are going to be adding in 1 cup of chicken stock. You can use any kind of stock. You can use veggie stock, beef stock, chicken. I don't really like to use like the box chicken stock because it goes bad and all that. I like to use the bouillon cubes. That way I can just heat up some water in the microwave, pop it in, mix it around, pour it in, and we're good. Okay, so the next thing that we're gonna be adding in is a 13.5 ounce can of coconut milk. So this is what's gonna make this coconut. So this is quite a bit of liquid, but that's okay because what I'm going to do is I'm going to shred this chicken and then keep adding in that moisture so that it can be really juicy. You can also, if you wanted to take this a step further, you can add more stock and make this into a soup. You could put veggies in it. Like there's so many different things that you can do with this. I'm gonna be making some tacos today, so I will get back with you guys in a little bit. So once you add that coconut milk in, you're just going to mix it around just to make sure that the broth and the coconut milk is incorporated. Then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to put our heat all the way up to high to get all of this bubbling. And then once it starts bubbling up, we're going to let it go down to a gentle simmer and cover it with a lid. So what's gonna happen is that all of that liquid and that steam is going to help break down the chicken and also bring it up to temperature so that we can shred it nice and easily. Okay, now that I have my chicken covered and it is simmering, I'm going to set a timer for 20 minutes. I like to check it, first in 20 minutes, then if it's not quite ready in 10, because I don't want to overcook that chicken. A good way to know that if the chicken is ready to go is to just take a piece out and try to shred it. If it's not shredding easily, just pop it back in, set the timer for another like 10 minutes or so, and then try again. Alright guys, you may be wondering why I'm standing here with all of these onions. The answer to that question is I'm going to be taking that coconut curry chicken and I'm going to be shredding it and making it into tacos. So on top of those tacos, I'm going to be adding in some pickled onions, aka mango onions for those of you, Latin people in the audience. So what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be cutting these into half moon shape, soaking them in some vinegar, and then cooking them to really seal in that vinegar flavors. So it's super good. It's also a really, really good way of preserving onions that are getting ready to go bad, because that vinegar kind of serves as a preservative. So let's get started with that. The first thing that we're gonna be doing is we're going to half our onions and then cut them into little half moon slice shapes. Alright guys, so now that I have all of my onions all sliced up, I'm going to be preparing the pickling juice, if you will. So the first thing that we're gonna need is half a cup of white vinegar. So I'm just gonna measure everything in here and mix everything in here. So bear with me. Alright, that's good. And then, yeah, so equal parts, right? So half a cup of white vinegar and then half a cup of the red wine vinegar. Wah, wah. All right, so that's gonna give you a cup in total. And then to that, you're going to be adding in 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, and 1 teaspoon of salt. So then once we get all of those ingredients in, we're just gonna mix it until everything is dissolved. Okay, so when I had first come up with this recipe, I was originally planning on doing 2 onions, but I had 4 onions that were kind of looking a little bit shady in the fridge. So this is probably not going to be enough. So if you're going to be doing 2 onions, then cool, you know, just go with this. But if you're going to be doing 4, you're going to want to double it, which I'm going to do in a few minutes. Also, like I said before, like pickled onions are a great thing to add to pretty much anything. So like, because I wanted to try to preserve these onions, like I'm probably gonna have leftover onions to use in different things aside from these tacos, but you know, whatever you guys do is gonna be fine. So anyway, once I get my mixture all mixed together, all the salt and the sugar and pepper and all that stuff dissolved, we're just going to pour it over our onions, and then we're going to mix it up to get everything incorporated. All right, so as predicted, the pickling liquid that I had come up with originally would be perfect for 2 onions. So since I have 4, I just whipped up some extra. So it's just doubled if you're gonna be doing 4 onions. All right, so this is what your onions should be looking like when they're sitting in that pickling liquid. So they don't have to be completely covered. They just have to be like 80% of the way covered. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna let this sit on the countertop for a little bit and just keep stirring it to make sure that all of the onions have a good amount of time soaking in the pickling mixture. All right, so it's been about like 25 minutes and my chicken is looking good. A lot of the coconut milk kind of separated a little bit, but that's fine. It's still gonna taste good. So we're gonna do our test now. So try to find like the biggest piece of chicken, because if that one is done, then all the other ones are most definitely done. So I think this guy's a little bit bigger. Yeah. So you're just gonna move them onto a plate and you're going to just go in with a fork and see if you can shred it easily. So this looks pretty good to me. I can probably get away with cooking this for maybe another like 5 minutes or so, but like I'm happy with it. And then of course at this point you can give it a taste because the chicken is cooked, and see what the seasoning looks like. Oh, it's hot. So yeah, really good. Definitely a lot of that spice came down, so I'm happy about that. But definitely big on the coconut flavor, which I love, and the curry comes through really nicely. All right, so now I'm just going to shred all of my chicken. So as you can see, I don't even have to do much. I just push down on it with a fork and it comes apart really nicely. So that is good news. That means that this is gonna be super, super tender and so good in the tacos. So I'm gonna be working in sections. So I'm just gonna be, I take a couple pieces on this little tiny plate and then put it in the bowl, and then just get in some more chicken, and then, do that and put it back in the bowl, and I will check back in with you guys in a bit. Alright guys, so I finished shredding up all of my chicken, and it's not, you know, completely fine shred, just like roughly shredded, which is gonna work perfect for tacos. And then I also took the juice from the pan and I put it in this dish here, and I'm just gonna mix it up. So there is some separation happening here because we have chicken fat, we also have coconut fat, and then we also have the chicken broth. So we're going to mix this up, and then we're going to pour it on top of our chicken to reintroduce all of that moisture and coconutty goodness into the chicken. So I'm not gonna do the whole thing. I'm just gonna pour it and taste as I go because I want it to be juicy, coconutty, seasoned, and all of that stuff. So just pour it, mix, and taste. All right guys, our onions have been soaking for a bit, so now we're just going to take them and we're gonna pour everything, including all the juices, into a pan. So it's gonna sizzle a little bit, that's okay. All right, so make sure we get all of them. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're going to let this cook. What's gonna happen is that the onions are gonna get a little bit soft, but not too soft, and they'll still be nice and crunchy, which will work really good with our tacos. So I will check back in with you guys once these are almost done. All right guys, so the onions are pretty much done. As you could see, we don't want them to be super soft. We want them to be a little bit soft, but still crunchy. That way we have that really nice crunch in our tacos. So a good way to test this out is you just pick up an onion, take a bite. If it's crunchy but still kind of soft, then you're good to go. All right, so let's give these a taste. It's a little bit hot, let me just shake it off. It's so good because it's sweet, vinegary, and still crunchy. It's gonna be so good in the tacos. All right guys, so this is the finished plate. So I have some tortillas that I just roasted directly over the flame on the stove, as well as our shredded chicken, the pickled onions, a little bit of mozzarella cheese, as well as some fresh cilantro right on top. So I really hope that you guys give this recipe a try. It really is a really great, easy recipe to do, especially like on a weeknight, because it is very simple. Also, if you do make the coconut chicken, keep in mind that you don't have to make them into tacos. You can make them, you know, with rice or pasta. Like, there's just so many different things that you can do with this particular shredded chicken recipe. All right guys, so that is it for me. I hope you give this a try, as I said, and please like and subscribe to this channel. Thank you, bye-bye.